In this video, I'm going to show you a real-world example of how you can do outreach and raise capital to someone to get them into a multifamily investment. And in this particular case, it was 20 days from the time I reached out to this person until the time I got them into an investment. So stick around to the end. I'm going to show you step by step everything I did, and this is going to help you raise more capital and get you unstuck so you can get into more deals. But real quick, a little bit more about me. When I got into my first deal as a general partner, there's a mistake I made, and I thought I was going to be able to raise capital because I'd been going to these networking events. And when I was at the networking events, I met people, they were multifamily investors, and I had business cards. At the time, I had a coach from the program I was in, and I said, hey, how can I gauge how much capital I'm going to be able to raise? And I think the guidance I got was, maybe 5 to 10% of your database. I looked at my database and thought, oh, okay, I'm going to be able to raise some capital. When I went to actually raise capital, it was tough. I think I only raised $50,000 for this first deal. So my partners had to make up the rest of that. And what I realized is that I had no system for raising capital. My system for raising capital at that point was just hoping that I had gathered enough business cards. So the approach I'm going to show you in this video has nothing to do with actually getting business cards. It has everything to do with how to do outreach, how to have the conversation, and how to gain a commitment from someone so you can get them into a multifamily deal. All right, let's jump into the content. All right, if you're here and you're listening, then that means you've either tried to raise capital and you didn't have any luck, or you've had some limited luck, or you're really looking to scale your ability to raise capital, or maybe you've never raised capital before and you don't want to make the same mistakes I did when I first tried to raise capital and actually, raise hardly any capital. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how you take someone from being a cold lead and you warm them up into someone who is nice and hot and ready to invest. There's a very specific way that you do that. So the first thing you need to do is you need to define your list. And I'm going to walk you through all of these processes here, but you need to define your list. Who are those people? Those are the people who you already know. So the leads you're going to get, these are people that are already in your network. I'm telling you, it's much easier to raise capital from your existing network than it is to go find new people. The next thing you need to do is you need to learn how to do outreach to those people. What does it look like when you do outreach to those people? Then you're going to focus on getting a booked call with them. This is not just about getting an email address, it's actually about having a call. Once you have that book call, you're going to learn how to have a one-on-one strategy with someone so that you can get from them on that call a soft commitment and then get them to invest in a deal. But real quick, if you've never met me before, these are the properties that my partners and I have invested in. You can see these are large apartment complexes, and you can see some examples here where we held these deals for anywhere between 2 and 4 years and had pretty good return on investment. But more importantly, what I want you to realize is these are large apartment complexes and they all took millions of dollars of capital to raise. I'm going to share that strategy with you today. And if you never met me before, my name is Stephen Lee Thomas. I'm a multifamily investor. I've been doing this for the last 7 years. I'm a business coach. I teach people how to do this. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm also a webcast host. But let's get into the details. So I like this picture a lot. This is actually from Alex Hormozy's $100 million Leads, How to Get Strangers to Want to Buy Your Stuff. So if you don't have that book, I highly recommend go and buy that book. And he also has one, it's $100 million sales, I believe. But both of those books are really, really, really good. The first thing you need to do, and I mentioned this in the intro, is this raising capital has nothing to do with going to networking events and getting business cards. If your strategy for raising capital is I'm going to go to networking events where there's other multifamily investors or people in real estate, I'm going to get business cards, I'm going to add them to my database, I'm going to send them a few emails over time to warm them up, and then I'm going to ask them to invest with me, you're probably going to have the same problem that I did, which is I got one person out of a few hundred people to invest in my deal, and it was someone I had recently met. I'm going to teach you how to not have that same problem today. So where should you start with raising capital? So in this little picture right here, we've got, you have warm people and you have cold people. And the warm people, those are people who you already know. This is your audience. This is, think of going through your phone book, think of your phone, your list of people in your phone. Think of going through the people who are already in your existing email database. Think about going through your social media. These are the people that you've already been engaging with and interacting. Even if you're new to multifamily, these are the people that have already built a relationship with you, and they're gonna invest with you because they already know you, like you, and trust you. You just need to introduce them to what it is you're doing and show them how it can accelerate their wealth. I don't recommend when you first get started reaching out to cold people. These are people see you as a stranger, and you've got this, I love this stranger danger mentality. So if you are gonna go out to cold people, the same process works once you get into the call. You just have to know that it takes you more time to warm them up. I do this, I work with cold leads, but it is not the easiest place to start. So I'm recommending that when you start with warm people. So let me break this down a little bit more for you. How do I get leads? This is also from Alex Hormozy's $100 Million Leads book. I think this is a great visual. I teach this to people so that they really have a good concept of where they're getting leads from to hop into these investments. And what I need you to understand is if you're brand new, this is where you're at. You are here. Well, what is here? So the way this grid works is you've got people who know you and then people who don't know you. And then how do you talk to them? That's in one-on-one conversation. And these are people that you know or people that you don't know. And then you have one to many or one to potentially infinite. And that would be people who you know. This is going to be posting content on your social media. If you've ever kept track of that, most of your posts go to people that already follow you. Most of it does not go to people who already follow you. Or this might be in your email database. These are people who are already in your email database. And then there's this other over here. This is people you don't know and you want to do one to many. This is running paid ads. I can tell you from experience, I'm not going to go into it in this training, but once you've gone through this list, you're going to have this natural progression where you try to reach out to these people and it's not very easy. And I'm here to tell you that when you're ready, this is the way to go. When you're ready. I don't recommend you start there in this training, but when you're ready, this is a game changer when you get ready to do this. So what I want you to focus on is people who you know, and you're gonna have a one-on-one conversation with them. Now, I'm gonna break this down to you in the concept of a marketing funnel. I love to come back to a marketing funnel every time because it's something that just isn't taught in any of the programs that I've been part of or I've heard people be part of. Nobody ever talks to you in the concept of marketing funnel, but when you're raising capital, it's all about a marketing funnel. So I'm gonna walk you through this idea of a marketing funnel really quick, and then I'm gonna give you the steps within the marketing funnel. And then we're gonna go through the actual example of what that would look like, real world example of what that would look like. So in the marketing funnel, you have the top of the funnel, and that's awareness. And this is just getting people to be aware of you. And you can think of this in two ways. One is these are people who've never seen you before, and think of like a billboard. You're running an ad that's a billboard. Hey, I've never seen this person before. Now I'm becoming aware of them. Or maybe these are people that you already know, but they're not aware that you're doing multifamily investing. And so there's a couple different ways you can look at awareness. Then below that is you have interest. Now interest is once they're aware of you, once you're driving down the freeway and you see that billboard, there's something on that billboard that entices you. It speaks to you and you say, you know what, I want to learn more about that. So maybe from that billboard you go over to a website, or you go download something, or if it's a restaurant, maybe go to the restaurant. But what they've done is on that billboard, in that awareness phase, they give you what's called a call to action. They're telling you, now that you're aware, I want you to go do something. They move you into this interest phase, and this is where the nurturing begins, is in this interest phase. And you nurture somebody enough and you give them another call to action, which is, hey, I'd like to move you into this phase where I'm going to try to convert you. And this is where you get that soft commitment and that commitment to get into a deal. So Awareness, interest, conversion, and then you have loyalty. This is where you continue to nurture people, keep them warm, give them great results, ask for testimonials. Today, we're going to talk about these first 3 phases and how you can fast track that. So just remember, you want a call to action every time. There's always a call to action to move somebody through the funnel till you get them to a commitment and into a deal. What I'm going to show you, the steps to the process, is exactly this. So in the awareness, what I'm telling you to do is you need to go define your list. Who are the people that you are going to reach out to? The next thing you need to do is you need to reach out to them. So they already know who you are, but you're going to let them know that you are into multifamily investing, and then you're going to give them a call to action that's going to move them through this funnel. You're going to ask them to hop on a call with you. That's your call to action. Then you're going to, in this interest phase, and I realize you're moving them through very quickly, but you're leveraging your existing relationship with them. In this interest phase, you're going to conduct this one-on-one call. You're going to go over a pitch deck with them, and you're going to ask very specifically for a soft commitment from them. And that's what's going to give you the ability to say, I can raise 50,000, 100,000, $500,000, 2 million. It's because you're having the conversation, you're getting a commitment from someone, you're giving them a call to action, you're asking them to convert. Now, this conversion phase, when you move through from the soft commitment to actually getting them into a deal, this is where you like host a webinar or send them the deal information, and then you specifically ask them to invest in a deal. So the reason why I laid this out here and color coded it is so that you can see each stage of the funnel has steps that you follow, and you're always giving them a call to action to move them through where you want them to go. You've got to tell them what you want them to do. So with that, what I want to do now is I want to show you a real example of someone who I reached out to. This is someone who I used to work with, I hadn't chatted with in a very long time. This is where I go back to that four square of, who do you reach out to? You need to start with the people that you already know, and you're going to have a one-on-one conversation with them. So what does that look like? Okay, you do your initial outreach, and that is you're building a rapport. You're just having some small chat, you're building some rapport. So I'm going to walk through this example piece by piece. Hey Clint, hope this is still your number. This is Stephen Lee Thomas. Sorry I missed you guys last week for beer. So I'm just opening the conversation. I'm not jumping in and saying, hey, I want to show you what I'm doing. We have a little bit of small chat. Yep, still my number. Things are going good. I ask about how work was. This is where I used to work with this person. Now, he actually opened the door for things, and I was able to take the opportunity. It might not always be this smooth for you, but you'll get the idea. He said, hey, I heard you're doing your own thing. And I said, yep, I sure am. It's very different, blah, blah, blah. But the point is, you can see here, it's just a nice casual conversation. Imagine walking up to somebody on the street. Before you ask them to hand over money or do something for you, you're probably gonna have a little bit of a conversation. So this is the conversation I had. Then I move on to the next phase. And this is the stage of leverage. So leverage, if you don't know somebody and you're reaching out to them cold, you still need to have this leverage. You still need to understand why they might want to hop on a call with you. What is their pain point? How can you help them? In this case, you are leveraging your existing relationship to get a call booked. This is how I take the approach. This is what I recommend. I said, hey, maybe you could help me out since you brought up my new job. This is where I'm transitioning into getting that call booked. Now that I'm doing this full time, I prepared a presentation / slide deck explaining how passive investing in apartments works. Would you be open to giving me feedback on my presentation and letting me know if you know anyone who might be a good fit for this type of investment opportunity? So what I want you to pick up on is I'm not coming out from the gates, even though I've done a little bit of small chat and saying, hey man, I got a deal, you want to invest in it. I'm not doing that. What I'm doing is as honest. I would like to share with him what I'm doing, and I would like his feedback, and I'd like to know if he knows anybody who would like to invest potentially. And it might be him, it might not be him, but the only way for me to know that is to share this with him. So he says, yeah, I could do that. And I said, cool, means a lot. Do you have any time next week? Hop on a Zoom call. I'm suggesting do this through Zoom call. And he says, yeah, I could do that. I'll send you some times that I'm free next week. Thanks, Clint. So there you go. It's as simple as that to start doing the outreach and transition into getting a commitment. But you will run into problems. And that problem is it's not always easy to book the call. Most people that you're going to reach out to, if you're doing this type of cold outreach to your existing audience, they're going to be a little bit hesitant to book a call. And you'll see that here. So he actually didn't book a call. And so I followed up with him and I took ownership and I said, hey, Clint, sorry about this week. It's been crazy for me. Can we try to connect Monday or Wednesday? And the strategy I'm telling you to implement is you want to pick 2 times and ask them to commit to that, because you don't really care if they pick either of those 2 times. What you're trying to do is get them to pick something. Most of the time when you give them specific times, they will commit to it. So in this case, he didn't just right away book into the call. I had to push, I had to nudge a little bit to get him to book into that call. So we have a little bit of chatting back and forth, and I make it more specific, 2 or 3 on Wednesday, and says, yep, either one works. I said, cool, just let me know the email address, I get it. And then I booked him in and I sent the invite. So first 3 steps, quick recap, you have your initial outreach, some small chat, and then you're gonna leverage your existing relationship to get them open to giving you feedback on your call, and then you're gonna book the call. You're probably gonna have to push a little bit to get this call, and that's okay. Very normal, happens all the time. So now, Clint hops on a call with me and you're saying, Steven, this is great. Now I've got a call. I'm so excited. This is everything I needed, but what the heck do I say on that call? Okay, I'm gonna break this down for you. Now this training in and of itself takes a long time, but I'm gonna show you the framework that you need to use when you hop on these calls. And it's really 2 pieces of the equation. And the reason for this is because I've learned over the years through the training that I've had is when you are working on a sale, you have people who are emotional decision makers or rational decision makers or a combination of both. And a lot of times these decisions need to be made by both a husband and wife or a spouse or partners. So what you need to do is you need to be prepared to talk to both the emotional decision-making part and the logical decision-making part. So that's why I have this broken up into two pieces here. So your first half of the conversation, I recommend you have to state the agenda. You've got to take the lead. You got to be in control. But the basic idea here is that you have to understand their current situation, figure out their pain point. What is it that they want? Why would they ever even consider investing in a deal? Most of the time it's because they're not happy with the amount of money they're making in their retirement, or maybe they haven't invested as much as they should have and they're trying to accelerate that. So you've got to ask some questions here to where are they at? Where do they want to be? Figure out what they want, and then what's keeping them from achieving what it is they want. And then you have to be very honest with yourself. Can your solution solve their problems? If they were to invest with you, would it actually help solve their problem? You're qualifying them, and I want you to be real honest with this. This investment's not for everyone. It's for a lot of people, but it's not for everyone. And if it's not, then I think at that point it's fair to say, man, I really appreciate this. I want to continue with the conversation. I'd still like your feedback, but if it doesn't solve their problem, don't over push for the commitment from them. Then once you know if your solution can solve their problem, then you move on to your actual presentation. So the first half is really just a conversation. It's a one-on-one, face-to-face, Zoom, however you want to do it, but it truly is just a conversation. Then you move to the second half of that one-on-one call. The second half is where you're going to show the actual numbers. You're going to show some data. You're going to show how it works and what the returns would look like. Now you're focused on the outcome, not necessarily all the steps involved, because if you get over committed to the steps involved, then you might get hung up a little bit. But here's what you're going to do in the second half. You're going to share examples if you have them. You're going to build some, if you can share examples of what you've got, it's going to show that you have show that you've done this before, so you've got some experience doing this. Then what you want to do is you want to restate the problem. Hey, earlier when we were talking, you said this is your problem. Then you can say, this is the solution. We talked about this, so now I'm going to show you what the solution is. And then you're going to share, if you've got it, some case studies if you've got them. Hey, I was invested in this deal and I made this much money. My partners and I did this deal, we made this much money. From there, I suggest that you show examples. If they were to invest $50,000, $100,000, $250,000, what would that have looked like for them? What would it look like for them if they invested that much money? How soon would they make that money back? How much would it be cash flow? How much of it would be return on the sale of the property? Once you go through that, you will have presented them the logical side of how things work, what the results are on some deals, and you will have tapped into their emotional side. And if it's something that really compels them and solves their problem, it's going to be a lot easier for you to get that commitment from them. So from there, what you do when you get to the end of it, you say, hey, I appreciate you taking the time to hop on this call. Now, I asked you if you could give me feedback on this, and if you know anybody who might be invested or who might want to invest in a deal like this. The answer you're hoping for is when someone says, yeah, I'm interested in this. And in the case of working with Clint, who was in this example, that's exactly what happened. He's like, yeah, I'm interested. And at that point, I asked for the soft commitment. And I say, cool, man, well, let me get some of your information. And I ask him very specifically, when the opportunity arises, how much would you like to invest in your first deal or your next deal? And they will give you an amount. I can't stress this enough. While you're on the call, I suggest you have a form, maybe like a Google form, and you're gonna fill it out on their behalf. You're gonna collect some information about them, and you're gonna say, what's your investment amount? And you're gonna get that because you are getting them prepared in advance to make that investment. And if they need to, they might need to make some funds available. But it's really going to change things for you when you say, yes, I can raise $2 million because I've already talked to these people and they've already made that commitment. Because this is where I think a lot of people fail when it comes to raising capitals. They're like, yeah, I've talked to a lot of people who have said they might give me some money, but you've never actually had that conversation. And if they said they would lend you some money, or not lend you, but invest in a deal, how much would they invest in that deal? So this is really where it boils down to in the actual conversation. So now we're moving from the conversation, the one-on-one conversation. I've got that soft commitment. You're saying, Stephen, that's great. But then what happens? How do I get this person to commit to a deal? So the next thing you're going to do, what do I say in my outreach? Just continue the example, and then you have to do your follow-up. So in this case, I say, hey, Clint, thanks for your time today. Just sent you an email with the decks we've covered. And I say, hey, just circling back to see if you want to get into the deal we currently have available. So in this case, I actually already had a deal that was available. I had sent him a copy of the recording and the slide deck, and I'm giving him a sense of urgency. I need to have all the funds wired by the end of next week. Now, if you don't have a deal, I would encourage you to still do some follow-ups, some nurturing. Hey, checking in, see how you're doing. Did you get my emails before? Because you're going to want to be providing them some educational content along the way. So this is just me following up, making sure I sent him the deal. Now I'm nudging him again. Are you interested in getting in that deal? Now, the thing you need to do after that is you're going to have to prepare yourself to handle for objections, because somebody gave you a soft commitment does not mean they're going to invest in the deal. You still have to nudge and poke and prod a little bit. So this whole process does take energy, but if you structure it right, you know what to do and you know when to do it, and everything just starts to fall into place. So continuing on with this, handling objections, he says, hey, I think we're going to want to get into one that's worth a $50,000 option. And this particular deal is a $75,000 minimum. So the way I handled this, I had already had a conversation with my partners, and I said, hey, if the $75,000 is the deal breaker and you want to get into a deal, I have approval from my partners to take a $50,000 investment to get you in. And he says, okay, we're in for $50,000 for this deal, correct? Yep. All right, cool. So that is the conversation that we had. A lot of it was through text. I had a one-on-one call with him. He had committed, and then I sent him follow-up material. I followed up with him about that. He pushed back a little bit, saying he wasn't quite ready because of the commitment amount. I made an adjustment, but I still got him into the deal. So from there, I think I did have an attachment missing, but I sent him the link to the portal. And then you can see right here, he submitted all the documents. And if you look back at the timeline, 20 days. So that's just one person. If you had 10, 20, 30 people you could reach out to and get on a phone call, you're easily $500,000 to $1 million just by using this example right here. Okay, so hopefully you found this video very informative, and I think a lot of you can probably take this information and go start implementing it right away and probably raise capital much better than you could have done before. And you might even be able to raise enough capital to help you get into your next deal. But there's going to be some of you who are looking for some more help and some more guidance. And while I shared with you some of the pieces and the frameworks, you probably want some help in implementing this. And you might even want to fast track your way into getting into your first deal, your next deal, or raising more capital. So if that's you and you're ready to go fast and you want to move forward, then I want you to click the link below and I want you to book in a call with me. Watch the video before we hop on the call, and I look forward to seeing you in a one-on-one, and we're going to help fast track you into your next multifamily deal.